Hi there. Today we will be looking at how to add different systems and endpoints and different elements onto the desync canvas. So adding elements onto the canvas is all driven by the right hand side bar here. You can see the three blue buttons here. These are the main buttons which allow you to add elements onto the canvas. And we will start with system. If you click at the system, you can see there are two options. There's the use wizard to create a system, and you can also create a system manually. Now, using a wizard to create a system, you're basically adding a fully configured system from the system's library, from a template. These are basically connectors developed internally by desync, and adding a system onto a canvas gives you the full range of data endpoints available underneath that system, as well as their respective data layouts. So let's have a look at the wizard. So we click at Use Wizard to create system. It will prompt you to select the location on the canvas where you wish to add the system. Hit the canvas, and the wizard loads. Now you can search your popular integration here, or you can just select from this drop down from the pop-up in here. Let's choose one. Let's say we want to synchronize WooCommerce with some other system. So we click on the WooCommerce system. It gives you some information about the system, the version of the API it's using, and the entities or data objects available in that system. Click at system. And usually what you get is basically a basic configuration and authentication settings. For WooCommerce, this requires a WooCommerce site URL. So you would fill out your URL here, and what it also needs is consumer key and consumer secrets. Now, these are internal to WooCommerce. You can create an API key inside WooCommerce, which will basically give you the values for both fields. And simply hit save. And there you go. So that's your WooCommerce system on the desync canvas. As you can see, if we double click on one of the endpoints here, like the customers, we get into the data layout section where you can actually see that it's using a JSON as the data type, and it's got all these fields ready for you out of the box. So it was loaded out of the template, which desync prepared internally. And you can go in and edit any of these fields. You can add new fields. You can add different functions on it, validate it, and so on and so forth. So that's the first system. With every single system, when you select, well, it's not just a system. If you select any element on the desync canvas by clicking on its name or the endpoint or a line between systems, like here, for example, if I click on the line, you notice that the right-hand sidebar changes to basically reflect the selection. In this case, if we click on the WooCommerce system, you can see that there are settings, and that's pretty much the original settings you put in. So that's your WooCommerce site URL. You can add htaccess username and password, and you have the authorization settings in here as I've keyed in originally. So this authorization methods, you don't really need to change it for the templates. Each template developed by desync has got its own authorization plugin. But if you ever need to change consumer key or secrets or even the URL, you can do it from here, from the system settings. So that's adding system from a template. Let's have a look at create system manually. Now, creating a system manually doesn't do much for you. It's basically you're creating a container for endpoints. So in this case, in the WooCommerce, which we've created previously, you can see that it's a container where it's got some settings like the system URL and some authentication. And underneath, you can see the different data endpoints, which in this case are customer mode and product. When you're creating a system manually, you get only the container. And then you as a user need to add endpoints into that system. So let's go ahead and create a system manually. Let's call it my custom system. And that's pretty much it. This is what you get. It's a simple container, and now we need to actually add stuff into it. So this is really useful for any custom API or FTP endpoint. So basically, any system which you cannot find in the systems library in the wizard, you can still connect this system using desync as long as there is an available API. How to add an endpoint to a custom system? Again, you just select it by clicking on its name, and from the right sidebar, you choose add an endpoint. Let's call it products. You select the type, so it's either source or destination. It can't be both. It's not an endpoint which would both send and receive data, so you need to choose what kind of endpoint this is. So for example, with WooCommerce, if we want to export all products from WooCommerce, it would be a source endpoint because we're getting data out of there and pushing it somewhere else. So if you want to extract all products, I would select source here, and from the connector type, I would select an API. This basically adds a blank endpoint into that system. And again, if you click on that endpoint, you can see the associated settings here for the API endpoint. So this is where you would specify the URL. You would choose the HTTP method. Because it's source, it's the only available method in here is get. You can set custom headers, and you can also set basic authentication in here. Now, if the basic authentication is not enough, you can go into the system settings and you can choose your authorization method. If, for example, there is an OAuth or OAuth 2, we do have generic plugins for that. So you would go generic OAuth 1, for example. You would fill all the settings in here with the consumer key secret, the token URIs, and so on. You can add custom headers, and you would authorize the connection that way. So that's manual. Let's create an FTP endpoint as well, so that I can show you. That would be FTP. And let's make a destination. So in this case, we would be getting data from somewhere and creating a file on an FTP on that WooCommerce server. And we choose FTP in here. And here we go. So this is our destination FTP endpoint. Again, if I select it by clicking on it, you can see there's the host, the username for the FTP, password, the protocol used. So desync supports all three. It's FTP, FTPS, and SFTP. You can also specify the port, the path where the file will be uploaded, and the file name. The file name can have a dynamic date, as well to it. Once you're done with setting this up, you would just hit Save Settings. So this is pretty much how you add systems and API and FTP endpoints inside those systems. Let's have a look at the source. So there are two types of endpoints. There's the FTP and API endpoint, which cannot exist on a canvas without the container, which is the system. But then you have also available these simple endpoints like the source upload, which can exist without any system. So what this source upload does, it basically takes a file which you upload into DSync, and it processes the data based on your settings and sends it somewhere. So let's add a source upload endpoint into the canvas. Click on the canvas, give it a name, and here we go. So that's our upload endpoint. It doesn't have any settings on the right hand sidebar apart from the data layout. There's nothing else needed. Basically, if we double click on that, we get into the data layout section. So if, for example, I was uploading a CSV file and wanted it to process data and send it somewhere, I would create a data layout which is CSV, comma delimited. Let's say I have headers in the first row of the file, and then I would add some fields. Like I can upload a sample file which would generate the fields for me. But let's say we have in the CSV file, we have a name and we have date of birth in there, which is a date. And we choose a format for the date. Let's say it's in this format in there. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So in this case, if I go back to a dashboard, I can see this is my manual upload endpoint. I can connect it to any of the endpoints available, any of these endpoints underneath systems available on the canvas, and I can link it and I can process data with it. Now, with destinations, we have three options here. So apart from the API and FTP endpoints, which you can add into a system as a destination endpoint, you can also add create an RSS feed. It's not your traditional RSS feed, which would be XML. This can be any data, be it JSON or XML. So it's really a link point. It's not an RSS feed per se. Feed onto the dashboard. I click the RSS feed. I click on the canvas where I want to add it. I'll give it a name and click OK. And we have a destination endpoint, which is an RSS feed. Again, when it's highlighted, selected on the right hand side, you can see the settings. In this case, it actually shows you the link where the data will be published. And you can add a basic auth to it, username and password, so that it's only accessible to people with that username and password. There are two more destination endpoints which are standalone and can be added onto the canvas. The next one is email. So what this does, if I run a job and my destination is email, the job will create a file and basically send that file as an attachment to an email address. Adding that onto the canvas, exactly the same as per the RSS feed. When you highlight it, when you select it, you can see you have an optional message. So that would actually appear in the email. And then you have a list of email addresses here. So if we go, you can add more emails in there. So with these settings, it would basically send the data as an attachment to these email addresses, email 1 and email 2. And the last endpoint which can be added onto the canvas, the standalone one, is a manual download. Now, manual download, it's really for testing purposes. It's really good for testing purposes. If you want to test your mapping, if you want to test data going through, the best way to do this is to basically create a job between a manual upload and a manual download and run it. Basically, you upload a file to Desync, and Desync processes the data, and it will give you a file back where you can actually see all the data transformed, and you can adjust from there. And that's pretty much it. There's no other elements you can add onto the canvas. It's really just the system from the wizard, a custom system. In custom system, you can add API or FTP endpoint, and then we have the standalone source endpoint. We have the RSS or RSS feed or link point, email, and the download as a destination. This video will basically explain the data layout, specifically the source data layout, and understanding what it is and how it actually fits into the overall process. So in here, I will be demonstrating on the Megaventory, where it's a custom API. It's a call basically which Desync makes to the Megaventory, pulling all product and inventory data and pushing the data after some kind of transformation into WooCommerce to update the stock on hand levels. Now, if we look at the overview, the overall process of Desync, this green area in here is basically what you control. You have your source system outside of that, and you have your destination system outside of your control. You cannot control what data this system is going to send you, or what data this destination system is expecting you to send. So if we look at the source data layout in here, think of the source data layout as it was a filter. You are not basically modifying or specifying what data this system is going to send. You're saying that when I get this data from the source system, I want to filter it, or I want to take all of the data, or I just want to take one field. You cannot really make any changes to the source system. That's completely out of your control. All you can control is the desync, the green area in here, so you can control the source data layout or filter the data which came in from a source system. You can do your mapping, and then you can control what gets sent to the destination system and how it all fits together. So I will demonstrate on the Megaventory. Okay, if we look at the source data layout in here, this was taken out of the documentation of Megaventory, the API docs for this specific call. So it is the inventory location stock get call, and I will show you how it actually all fits together. So we have all these fields in here. When I run the job, let's run it. So we make the call to Megaventory, and Megaventory responds with some kind of data. If we have a look at the data in the history of the job, which you can access through the download source, this is basically the data which Megaventory sends. So some stock list, you have product ID, then underneath you have some product, and you have some stock values, MB stock in here. Again, underneath some kind of data, and that's pretty much it. Now, if I go back just to demonstrate the actual source here, if I go into the data layout and let's add a field. So I'll add a field called my custom field, text field, okay, and we'll just make sure that the field is there. Yeah, it's on the data layout. I can just save this. So I've modified the source data layout in here. So I went into the source data layout inside desync, I've added a new field. Now, that doesn't mean that this source system will send the field. It's really just a filter, the source data layout. So if I run the job again, let's run this, and we'll look at the source. I get the exact same data which I got on the previous call without that custom field added onto the data layout. See, there is no custom field or anything like that. This is basically the data sent by the system, which is completely out of your control, to desync. Now, as I mentioned previously, it's more of a filter. So what you can actually do is say, I just want to work with a product ID. I don't need any of this MB product or like any of these fields. So I just want to work with that. So let's take some fields out from this. So I don't need response status. I don't need that. Let's have a look at the data here. Yeah, response status was there. Actually, let's make it more interesting. So I'll clear everything in here, and I'll just add one field, which is my test field. Save that. Now this will obviously break my mapping, but let's have a look at this. Let's see if I can still run it, because it definitely broke the mapping. Yep, so I run it. Let's have a look at the source, and it's still the same. And that's because it's completely out of my control what the platform sends in terms of the data to the source data layout. What it did do when I've changed the source data layout here, if we have a look at the mapping, I don't have the products queue anymore, and I don't have the stock on hand fields anymore. All I have is available to me is that test field on the source data layout. So the source data layout basically controls or filters the data which are coming from external system into desync, and it controls what then you can map and send to the destination target system. I hope this makes sense, and So following on the previous video of understanding source data layouts, we will look at the destination data layouts and how it all fits into the overall process. So as with the source kind of data layout and the source system being outside of our control, the destination system is out of our control as well. So the destination system, if it's an API, going back to the WooCommerce, there is a RESTful API and it's got all these entities underneath, which are coupons, customers, products, and so on. And each entity would have its properties defined. Properties are the actual fields on our data layouts, and you can kind of see what's required and what's not, what's write only, read only, and you can get all the information about the particular entity and the fields from the docs. So in destination data layout, we basically telling desync what data, what fields will be sent to the destination system. Of course, the destination system, because it requires some fields. Some fields need to be in like a particular data type, like something needs to be a number, something needs to be a string. So your destination data layout, to successfully run the job, your destination data layout must follow the structure defined by the destination system. So let's have a look at destination data layouts, and we'll go back to my Megaventure example here with the WooCommerce. So in this data layout, we are updating multiple products. This is signed for multiple. And all we're doing is updating the SKU and the stock quantity. Well, we're not really updating the SKU. The SKU is the key. So basically we're updating only the stock quantity of a product from Megaventure. Now, this structure, he basically defines what data is sent to WooCommerce when it's all mapped and ready. So when it hits after the mapping engine and the destination data layout, then the data sent from this green, from desync to the destination system, will be in this format. So it will be a JSON, there will be an array of products, and each object underneath that array, each product basically, will have two fields, one SKU, which is a text field, and one number field for stock quantity. And we can actually see it on the job history, what gets sent, and that it is as per the data layout. And I will run it so that we can actually see that. So here we go. The output data is what gets sent to the destination or target system. So it's after the mapping and basically what was sent to the system. So if we have a look at the output data, you can see that there is an array of products. There's 9 products in total, and underneath each product we're sending the SKU, which is a text field, and we're sending the stock quantity field, which is a number. Now, if we have a look at WooCommerce and how it's set up, the API endpoint, what call is actually made to update the product in WooCommerce, we can see it in the URL. We are using the products bulk, the version 3 of the API. So if we go into WooCommerce here, and we find that call, that's the one, v3 product bulk, you can see that you can update pretty much, well, this is not really a good example, but you can update pretty much any field on the product. In WooCommerce, they're called properties. So if we look at the properties again, edit only. So I can update the name, which is a text field. I can update the status. I can update any of these fields which are not read-only. Of course, if it's read-only, then you can't really update it. You can only read it, get it out of the WooCommerce. So let's have a look at the data which the Megaventory gives us in this call. So if I go back to the source, we download it, we look at the data which come in. Here we go. So we have a lot more data. Like we don't have just the SKU and the quantity. There's a lot more in here. So there's a description. There's got to be a price somewhere. Here we go. So product selling price, product's purchase price, weight, and all that stuff. Image even. There's even an image. So what if we wanted to update more fields? What if we want to add the price to the product? So if we have a look at the product, this is my test product which is in there, DVDK01. You can see it doesn't have any description right now. It doesn't have any price. So let's update it. Let's take the data which are available to us from Megaventory and let's modify the destination data layout so that we include the price and we include the description. We'll map it and we'll update the product. So we go to the destination data layout and we go back to the WooCommerce docs in here, and we can, price is read only, but we can update the regular price. So I'll take the regular price field and its string text and I'll add it into the mix. So we'll add a field, regular price, not required. It was string, so we need text, and hit OK. Now we need to put it underneath the product because it's an object. And we update the description as well. So let's have a look if we have a description here. There's title, name, SKU, sell price. There we go, description, product description. So again, it's a string, which is a text field. So we'll add the description into the mix. Description, text, OK. And that's it. So I'll save it now. Save the data layout. Data layout is used in map template. So the map template previously had only the SKU and stock quantity. I've just added two fields, so it's gonna do something to the mapping template. It will basically try to add the two fields. It's saying there is existing template which didn't have this structure yet. Do you want to override it? Yes, we want to override it. We're adding fields on it. Now we go back to the mapping. So this is our current mapping as it was before. What you can see here, it's telling you that it's missing destination fields, and that's coming directly from the destination data layout. We've added the regular price and we've added the description fields, and all we need to do in here to basically update the map template as per the changes we've just done to the target data layout, we can say just regenerate the map. and this drops the 2 extra fields on it. We'll save it. And just for fun, I'm not gonna map anything right now onto it, and we'll see how it changes. So previously, if we look at the data we were sending to WooCommerce, you probably remember that that was just the SKU and stock quantity underneath the products array. Now we've added 2 new fields, but we didn't map anything on it. So I'll run that job again, and I can just run it right from here. And that ran. We have a look on the product if it did anything to it, so I'll just refresh the page here. Nothing there. Description empty, no price, everything empty. So if we look at the data which were actually sent to WooCommerce, the fields are there. So we have regular price field and we have description field, but there is nothing mapped to it. So they're empty. So how do we map it? Regular price and description. So I just click to add field, and I need to find that price field. So we'll just filter here. Price. So we will put in product selling price. So we'll map the price to that, and description. And description from the Megaventory, there was product long description. Here it is. So we can map the product long description on it, and we can save it. And now after I run it, we should actually get some values in the regular price and description as per the data which are coming in from Megaventory, and it should update the product in WooCommerce. So let's run it and find out. Run. And that's done. We have a look at the data which were sent to WooCommerce now. Okay, you can see it here, regular price, 10, description, Godfather, DVD, English, subtitles, whatever. Let's actually find the product which I have in my WooCommerce, which was the DVD case. I can see the regular price is 1 from Megaventory and there is no description to it. Yeah, it's not really a good example, but we should have the price of $1 onto that product already updated. So if I refresh here, see regular price, nothing yet. Refresh, and regular price is 1. So that's how easy it is to actually map or add or edit what gets sent to the target system. So you're basically adding a field, mapping based on what's available to you coming in from the Megaventory, and mapping it onto the fields again available to you in the WooCommerce. So last time we spoke about destination data layouts and how it changes the data which are actually sent to the target system. I just want to follow up on that. So I have the WooCommerce and Megaventory set up here. So last time we've added the regular price and description fields. We didn't have any description and the price was $1. So I decided to go on and just edit it a little bit. So long description, we just say awesome DVD case, and we adjust the price as well. So we'll go, it's $12. It's an expensive DVD case. Let's update this. Okay. Now, if we go back, just run it again. done. Let's have a look at the product, refresh. And we have awesome DVD case in here, and it's $12 now. Well, let's get into the mapping, how the desync actually validates the data and how you can transform it. First, we look at the validation of the data. So the validation, the first point of validation is by the data type. So desync, basically when you, on your destination data layout, let's go destination here. So we have text, number, text and text. Let's say we had another field in here and it would be an email, and it would be of type email. I'll just add it into the mix, and we will make the SKU a required field as well. Okay, and we save the data layout, which we need to adjust the mapping template again. So if we go to the mapping, regenerate the map, that's gonna add the new field email. We'll save that, and we will try to run the job again and see what happens. So we run it, and it's done. Have a look at the output, which was sent. You can see we have SKU, stock quantity, regular price, description, and email, which is empty. Now, let's pretend that we actually have an email field coming out of Megamentory. So what I can do in here, I'll just mimic that. I'll add a static value, a constant, to the email field, and I'll put in an invalid format of an email address. Let's try to put my bad email in there, and let's save that, and we try to run it again. And it fails, and we have an error. So what happens? We'll have a look at the log. So you can see, just by looking at the more, you can actually see where it failed. So we have the source data, so we know that the call to Megamentory to retrieve the data was successful, but we don't have the output data. So something must have happened before it hit actually the destination data layout and before the data was sent to the target system. So that indicates that something happened in the mapping. And if we have a look at the log, we have the my bad email in the product's email failing, and it's a destination field validation. And it's basically telling me that the field email is not valid, and that goes back to the data type. So if we look at the data layout, I specifically said that it's of type of email. So it needs to be in a correct email address format. Because in the mapping, we're getting my bad email, which is obviously not a valid email address, desync caught it and threw an error. So how do we fix it? Let's pretend that we have a valid email address. I'll just put it in. And we run that again. And now it easily went through. and you will see on the output the static value for every single product. Basically, there's gonna be an email field with this static value, my email at email.com, in it. So, oops, let's have a look. JSON. That's not a valid JSON. What did I do in here? Here we go. So, as you can see, email and my email for it's a static value, so it's gonna repeat for every single product coming from Megaventory. But that just shows you that you really need to be aware of the data types of the fields as well, and that there is internal validation Desync actually makes before sending the data to the target system. Another one, the required field, which we've added as SKU. So if there is no SKU, if this is empty, if there was no SKU coming out of Megaventory, which, like in our example, we have SKUs for every single product. There's DVD, another one, so we have SKUs for every single product. But if there was not SKU, or if it wasn't mapped, desync would basically throw an error. And again, we can demonstrate this. So I will remove the mapping, save it, and we run the job. See what happens. Error. And what does it say? Again, it went to Megaventory, it got the data, but then something happened in the mapping because we don't have the output data. Look, you can see that the product SKU is required and cannot be empty. So if you have required field, it needs to have a value every single time, otherwise it's gonna fail in the mapping engine. What you can do though in the mapping engine, if you don't have a value you would normally map, you can put a default value in. So if I go in here in the function, there's a default value, and every single field has this. And you can say, okay, I want to default this SKU value, which is, doesn't really make sense, but my non-existent SKU. And I hit OK. So if there is no value coming from the source system, from Megaventory, or if there is no mapping, then desync will put in this string, my non-existent SKU. It's just free text. It's gonna go in basically by default, and we'll test it right now. So I'll run this. And it went through. And if we have a look on the data which were actually sent to WooCommerce, you can see that desync went ahead and put my non-existent SKU in that SKU field and sent it to WooCommerce. So the validation, there are a certain amount of data types you can actually use, and each would have some kind of validation. So if we go back to, let's go back to the destination data layout here, and if we try to add field, the text, there's really no validation. There's automatic translation of it. So if you put a number in the text, it's gonna still work. Desync will just wrap it in parentheses. Number, URL. So URL, it's gotta be a valid URL. So HTTP : / something, valid domain name basically. Email, as we saw, valid email address. Date needs to follow the format you actually choose. So there are some predefined formats, so you can choose a custom format. Same with time, exactly the same. You have a time format predefined, or you can choose your custom. Datetime, same thing. Both of them. Boolean as well. So Boolean has three forms of representation. You have the standard one where it's true or false. So if you get if you get from the source data anything else than true or false, it's gonna fail the validation. There is a number representation which is basically 1 or 0, and you can also specify custom, so it could be yes, no, and so on. And I think that's pretty much it. There's only object which doesn't have any validation in here, but it just shows you that you need to be aware of the data types as well, and the data basically need to be transformed correctly. So if in this example WooCommerce is expecting a valid email and the valid email is not coming in from the source, then desync will stop it, unless you put in some default value which needs to be also a valid email. So I hope that makes sense. We'll look at the data types a little bit in more detail, and we go through the dates, and we'll go through the Boolean fields and how it all fits together and how it needs to be mapped. So another video, still talking about the mapping engine, which is completely isolated from the source and destination systems. So all these videos about mapping engine and data validation and transformation applies only within that green borderline. Doesn't have anything to do with the source system or destination system. Of course it should follow it, but this is like the mapping engine is completely isolated. And now we look at the data transformation. So going back to our WooCommerce and Megaventure example, we had that DVD product, the DVD case product in here in Megaventure, and we have that product in WooCommerce. We've updated the regular price last time to $12, and we also put in some description in it. Now, there's a sale price as well in WooCommerce, and I'm pretty sure we can map it. Let's have a look. Sale price. Here we go. Sale price. So we can update it and we can map it. So what we'll try to do is we will put a sales price in, but then we will put a markup on the regular price using some transformation functionality inside of the mapping engine. So first things first, we need to add the field onto the data layout, destination data layout, and that's my correct data layout here. So I'll add a field. It's a sale price. Let's see what WooCommerce says. String text. We'll see if that actually works. We'll keep it as that, text for now. Sale price. And we save the data layout. So that will basically add the sale price fields onto the data which are coming out of desync and into WooCommerce. So we have that covered. We go back to the mapping. We need to, I've removed the email as well, so we just regenerate the map here. There we go. So we have the destination field as per the destination data layout now. And we put the SKU in. Let's remove the default value, because I know I have the SKU in there. I think it was this one, product SKU. So we map that. We'll save it for now. And now, so what we want to do, we have this product selling price, and let's have a look what else, what other prices we have. So we have purchase price, and we have main supplier price. Okay. Product purchase price. So how about we base all the prices on the purchase price, the basically cost of the product to us. So instead of selling price in here, I'll map the purchase price on it, product purchase price, and let me just check what the purchase price is, if I can find it in Megaventory. Default purchase price 80 cents, so let's make it $10. So we'll update that price in here, so we will be getting from Megaventory $10 as the product purchase price, and we have a sale price as well. So what I'll do in here, I'll map the purchase price on it as well. Where was it? Selling price, purchase price here. Okay, we'll save this. Now, transformations. So the transformation functions can be applied to individual fields, but then also onto the overall field. So you can map more than one fields of the source data from the source onto one destination field in here. And we'll actually demonstrate what this does. So product SKU. Let's map the product SKU. We don't want to change product SKU. Long description. So we map the product SKU to the product long description, and we separate the two values by a dash, and we put that dash in between the two. So the product description will now become the product SKU dash and product long description. So let's save this. And let's run this job and see what it does in WooCommerce. It's done. Let's refresh the product in here. So we have regular price $10, sale price $10, and that's coming out of the product purchase price from Megaventory, which I just adjusted to $10. And if we have a look at the description, we have the SKU, which was the DVD case 01, followed by a dash, followed by awesome DVD case, which is actually the description. So you can actually see that you can map multiple fields, and this can be any number of fields actually from the source on one destination field. And if we look at the data which were actually sent to WooCommerce, you will be able to see the concatenation happened, and that's what was actually sent. So if we have a look at the descriptions here, so all of them will have that SKU followed by the dash followed by the actual description of the price, and that's coming directly from the mapping, what we just did. Now, what if we wanted to apply a function, make the SKU and the long description in this description field, which ties to the product description in WooCommerce? What if we wanted to just use uppercase? We could do that individually on each of these fields. So if I was to make the SKU, the DVD case 01, uppercase and leave this alone, the awesome DVD case, I can do that, and let's demonstrate it. So on the individual fields, if I go into FX, I'll get all these functions available to me. Now these are driven by the data type of the fields which is coming in, and I believe the product SKU is text. That's why you get all these functions for text. So we want it to return the text converted to uppercase. So we select that function. You need to hit add function to add that function. and say OK and save that. And we run it again, and in the description, product description in WooCommerce, we should have uppercase product SKU followed by a dash followed by a product long description. And that's done. Let's have a look what it did. And you can see the SKU is now uppercased in here, and this didn't change. So what if I want everything uppercase in a description? So I could go in and do the same for product long description in here, apply the same function, or I could apply the function, the same one, the uppercase, on the resulting kind of value which comes from this concatenation here. So if I apply the function in here, basically the order will be a desync will concatenate, will create one string, one text from these two fields and put a dash in between them, and then it will run the function on the overall value which was produced by the mapping. So let's go ahead and do this. We can add a function here which is uppercase, add that function, OK, save that, and we run it. And that's done. So if I refresh, the description should be all uppercase. And there we go. So that's one thing, that's text. Let's have a look at the sale price and how we can actually adjust the prices. So we'll leave this alone. Now with the regular price in here, with the mapping of the product purchase price from Megaventory onto this regular price field in WooCommerce, what you can do in desync, and that's only available on numeric fields, number fields, you can actually use mathematical formulas and add it in. So what we need to do in this case, because this is a text, we need to change the destination data type to a number to be able to use these, and you can apply them easily through the custom field in here. So if I wanted to take the dynamic value of the product purchase price from Megaventory, which is $10, and put a markup on it, let's say put some 50% markup on it, then I can easily do that just by saying, okay, I want this price which is coming from Megaventory, and I will multiply that by 1.5, and that should give me 50% markup. So desync will basically calculate this price, and it will put the result into this regular price field and send it to WooCommerce. Now, because this is a text field, this will actually produce a text which will have the $10, that symbol for multiply, and 1.5, and I can demonstrate this. So let's save this and we will run it. And let's see what it did to the regular price of the product. So if we go to WooCommerce, and so you can see that it actually inputted a text 10 times 1.5. So, and that's just because WooCommerce specifies the fields as text, which is, yeah, not really clever, but anyways. So how do we fix this? We need to make this field a number field, and let's do it now. Let's go to the Let's go to the regular price and change the type of the field to a number. Change that to a number. We save the settings. Go back to the mapping. So now it's a number field, and we have a calculation in here, which should actually go through. So let's save that and run the job. And that's done. So if I now refresh on the, if I refresh on the product, I get the 15 in here correctly. So let's do the sale price as well. So we say we want to have a better markup in here. Let's do 100%. So let's multiply this by 2, and our sale price will be our product purchase price times 1.5. And we save that. So now when the job runs, you're getting a product purchase price from Megaventure, which is $10, but what you're actually inputting into WooCommerce is 100% markup on the regular price and 50% markup on the sale price. So if I refresh here, oh, I forgot to change the sale price field to a number. So let's go back to a destination data layout, change it to a number so that we can actually do mathematical formulas on it, save it, and let's run the job again. Here we go. Refresh, and you can see it here. So Megaventure, $10 for DVD case on the purchase price. Default purchase price $10, and because of the mapping engine and the settings there, regular price in WooCommerce 20, sale price in WooCommerce 15. So last time we looked at applying transformation functions. We'll go a little bit deeper into that, because it's not just one function you can apply on the field. You can actually apply multiple functions to the same field. So we'll demonstrate here. So last time we basically put the concatenation of product SKU and the long description coming from Megaventure, and we made it all uppercase by applying this uppercase function on the entire description field here. So what if we wanted to append something to the string or prepend something or whatever at the same time? So we can actually apply multiple functions. So while you have the first function applied here, you can go back to the functions and we will append something to the string, and we will append first just the text, free text. We will append the text first, and I'll make a space there. We will append it, sorry, that's append first. We will append it to the resulting string here. So let's see what that does. So you have uppercase, and we're appending space first to the entire string. Let's save that. And right now, if I look at the WooCommerce, it was all uppercased. It was just the SKU dynamic coming out of Megaventure and the description coming out of Megaventure. Now I should see the word first appended to the string when I run it. So let's run this. And that's done. So I go back and refresh the page. And as you can see, it appended the text we inputted into the function. Now it's not uppercased. It's exactly as I put it in. And that goes back to the order of the functions in which they are executed. So if we look at this, it goes from top to bottom. So desync basically took the string, it uppercased it, and then appended the text first to it. Now, if I want to change the order of the function, I can simply drag and drop the function in here and put it on top of the uppercase. So now what happens, desync will take this resulting value, it will append the first to it, the word first, and then it will uppercase it. So let's test it out. Okay, save that and run it again. And now if we look at the product and refresh the page, we can see it's all uppercased. So the string was appended first and then the uppercase function ran. So that's how you change the order of the functions in which desync executes them. So now it's time to look at some debugging which you can do if the job fails in any of these stages of the process. So it could be connecting to the source system and getting the data out. It could be in the mapping engine itself. It could be the validation of the destination data layout, and it also could be rejected by the destination system if the data you're sending are not as per the requirement. So there are multiple I guess stages where the overall process can fail, and obviously every system is different and synchronization of data is complex, so you need to be aware of the overall process, and you need to be aware of where to go, how to find out where it actually failed and how to fix it. So going back to the Megaventory and WooCommerce, you can see it's a custom API on both sides, so we are not using any wizard kind of pre-made templates. We are using manually configured endpoints. So we'll go through this step by step through each of the stages in here. So we'll look at the source data, getting the data in. We will look at the mapping engine, and we will look at the destination system rejecting the requests you make. So the first point where it can actually fail, as mentioned just now previously, it could be failing when it tries to get the data from the source system. So if we look at the history of the job, that's really our friend in here. So if we look at the history of the job, if it's all successful, you will see the download source and you will see the download output, and log should be empty. If anything goes wrong, you may be missing the download output, you may be even missing the download source, or the log will not be empty while you have all these three in here, and obviously it's gonna tell you that there has been an error instead of done here. So let's demonstrate it. So first things first, if we go getting this, to the first stage of getting the data, let's say I made a mistake in here, and instead of get, I misspelled that and it's got now. Let me save this here. Let's see what it does and what it actually shows in desync. So if I run this job, it fails right away. You could see how fast that was. And if I look at the more, I have just the log, which means we were not able to get the data from the source system. So that should be your hint that, okay, there is something wrong with the connection to the system. It could be unauthorized, it could be, I don't know, invalid URL, as in our case, the system could be down. So to find out more, we can have a look at the log and we can kind of see this is what Megaventory returned to us. And it said the operation inventory location stock got does not exist for the service, which is basically telling us that I don't have any available REST API. You're trying to reach something which doesn't exist in my system. So that's your first point of contact. Have a look at the log and basically try to figure it out from here. So I would go into the Megaventory API. I would look at all the web services available, and obviously I would then kind of see that this inventory location stock got does not exist. So I would find that yes, it is misspelled. It should be inventory location stock get. So that would be the first thing for me. Make sure that desync can connect to the source system and get the data out of it. So if I go back, whoops, that's too much, and fix it, save that. That should do the trick. Now we can actually have a look at what happens when it's unauthorized. So the API key in here, let's make this, let's delete the M in front of the ampersand. Let's see what Megaventory says. So let's run it again. That's taking a bit longer. And it's successful, which is a surprise. Let me see what I've changed here. Not sure actually of the API key. Let's try to get rid of this 3 in here. Let's try again. And that's done as well. Okay. I'm not really sure why Megaventory didn't fail this, but if you're putting invalid API key, Megaventory should fail it. So that's up to that system basically to throw the error. Anyways, looks like you make changes to Megaventory API key and it still thinks that it's authorized and it still goes through. So we move on. We move on to the mapping engine and we will see what this gives us. So the first one here was just the log. So you know there's something wrong with the source system, getting data out of it. Now we go into the mapping engine and I deliberately make it fail. So we can simply just remove the product SKU which is required in here, save it, and let's try to run the job. Now this will result in an error because there won't be anything in the required field, so that's actually thrown from desync, from the mapping engine. And see how this changed. So you have the log, but you have the download source. If you can download the source data, that means the data was actually sent from the source system to desync. So there's no issue with getting the source data. There is some kind of issue afterwards, and the thing which happens after getting the source data is the mapping. So you immediately know, okay, there is a problem with mapping, validations of some sort. So again, you would go into the log, and you can see that there's a destination required function error, and it's telling you that the SKU is required and cannot be empty. So again, you would go into the mapping. You can see the product SKU field is not mapped, so you would map it back, and that would fix the error. So again, just by looking at the job history, you can kind of see where it failed and where you need to look. And the third point where it can fail is when you send the data to the target system, but it's malformed, it's got wrong format, or some data is missing, and the system rejects it. So let's do that. Let's see what happens if I try to update a product, but do not specify the SKU. So let's take the SKU out. And let's put a custom field. So let's see if WooCommerce actually fails this. They may not fail it. I'm not sure. Because it may skip the non-existent product just as easily. So let's try to run this. And I think it will. It will actually skip. If it can't find the product, it will still run, but it won't do it. Yeah, there we go. So that's done. So we need to make it fail in another way. And I think the best way would be to change the data layout so that it's not as per the API documentation. So let's see what we can do here. We go to the destination data layout. Let's save this. And let's make this field, let's change this. So instead of products, I say it's product, and it's not an array. No, that would fail in our mapping. So let's make it a product only. Let's see what it does. So let's save this. We will override the mapping engine again because we're changing destination data layout. So I just regenerate the map here. And let's just map the SKU for now on it. We don't need anything else for this demonstration. And let's run this. Let's see what WooCommerce says. And it failed it. So in this case, we were able to download the source. It went through the mapping and something was sent to WooCommerce, but WooCommerce rejected it. That's why you can see source, output, and log. So let's see what the log says. And it says API response status code missing products data. So because we've changed the format of the data which is sent to WooCommerce, and we no longer have the product's data array in there. WooCommerce basically said, no, I can't do anything with this. That's not as per my specification, and it rejected it. So this is basically an overview of where to look for errors or mistakes based on this more drop down in the job's history. So up until now, we were running the jobs manually through the run functionality on the job. There's a run button, or there's a tooltip as well. So if you right click, you can run it from here, but that's not very practical. So in the real world, you would like to basically run this job periodically in scheduled intervals and have your product updated from Megaventory into Woo. So how can we schedule a job? So we can see on the right hand side in here there is a schedule, and you can set the recurrence as well. So simply by selecting the job, you can choose the first day when it's supposed to run. If you choose the date and time in the past, it's gonna run immediately, and then within the recurrent schedule you set up. But let's say, oh, maybe, yeah, let's demonstrate. So if I set it to yesterday's date, and I'll set it to, let's say, 1 p.m., and I set a recurrence on it, and I want to run this every minute, I can do it this way. Now I save it, and the job will be immediately scheduled, and you will see this running will turn blue in a short while, and it will start running, and then it will continue to run every minute. And here we go, it's already started and it's running. So that was the initial run. So you can see it ran at 3:50 a.m. and there should be another one coming soon, and then basically every minute, as per the schedule. You can also make this first basically schedule in the future, in which case nothing is run. Basically when the time comes, it runs for the first time, and then again it's gonna follow the recurrent schedule you set up here. So let's just wait for a little while here. Now if you set up a 1 minute schedule, and you have a job which runs for more than 1 minute, let's say you have thousands of products in there, and the synchronization itself takes longer than a minute, then obviously the schedule is skipped, and it will run the minute after it finishes. But as you can see, it ran again 3:51, so it will continue run every minute as per the schedule set up. So up until now, we were working with the Megaventory. We called that endpoint inventory, and if we look at the data which are actually coming in, it's not just the inventory data. Megaventory gives you a lot more than that. If we download the source data which we are getting from the Megaventory, you can see that there is, just put it on a screen, you can see that there's a lot more than that. You have basically the product information in it as well. Yeah, there's pretty much everything we need to create a product in WooCommerce. All the videos I've done before were basically using the existing product which I've created manually, and I linked it by the SKU. So I put in MV test product, and in inventory in here I specify the SKU, and we were updating this one product. Now if we look at the list of products which are coming from Megaventory, you can see there's 9 of them. There's 9 products coming out of Megaventory, and we're just updating one. All the other ones, all the other 8 products, they don't have matching SKU in WooCommerce, so WooCommerce simply skips them. So what if we want to create these products in WooCommerce? Okay, so we have the source set up, and right now it's updating, well, not only inventory, we've changed it, but let's say it would be updating on inventory in here in our case. So it would have just the SKU and the stock quantity, nothing else. These 3 fields are not needed at all. So how do we create a product in WooCommerce? So we need to add an endpoint to this WooCommerce container, which has already been authorized. If it's not authorized, you can go into the settings and enter your consumer and secrets key for the WooCommerce API. So what we need to do is basically look at the WooCommerce API documentation for creating a product. So on the product, you have create a product. You can see it's a post method with this resource URI, and we get some sample request which we need to make to actually create a product. So let's go ahead and let's set this up. So first of all, we need to add another endpoint, and we call it the product, and it's a destination because we're creating products, we're pushing data into it to create products, and it's an API. Hit OK. Then we need to configure the API endpoint. So the configuration will be almost the same as the previous one, so I can just copy this URL and I can put it here, and I just need to change the resource URI to this endpoint. And that's changed. The method is post, which is coming from the WooCommerce API. And we save the settings. Now we need to define a data layout for it, otherwise you wouldn't be able to connect it. So if you're trying to create a link, you can, if I click on this product and I want to, it doesn't have a data layout defined even. This one does not either, but this one does. So if you want to create a link, you hit create a link, and all these different endpoints which you can actually connect to this endpoint are highlighted. So if I hit the job and I want to reuse the data coming from the source and I want to apply it to this endpoint, you can see that if I hit add endpoint in this case, it's not highlighted, so I can't connect it. That means there is no data layout, it's not ready to be connected. So going back, we open up that data layout page. It's a JSON, and this is basically the request which we need to make. So I'll just grab that, and I will use the editor and paste the sample in it and hit OK. Desync generates the data layout based on the sample, and we will make some changes to it. As you can see, there is some multiple images array underneath that. There are some categories, short description, title, type, and so on. What we want to put in, because this sample doesn't have all the data we probably need, so we'll have a look at the response. The response is more descriptive, so you can see actually all these fields are available to you to to actually create the product. So, okay, let's go back. Let's have a look at this. So we have title, we have type. I don't see a SKU in here, so we need to definitely add the SKU in. And that could be all, I think, for now. So let's just add the SKU in. I know it's text, and this is coming directly from the WooCommerce API documentation again. It's right here. So these fields basically need to match the name of the field. They need to match. So I'm putting in SKU, which is a text field. Let's add it in. Put it underneath the title. Regular price. We can leave this as it is. I'm not sure if the categories are coming from Megaventory. Product description. Oh yeah, we have product categories here. We'll see what it does. We can map the product category description on it, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so let's save this. And now to the important part. So as you can see from the data coming in from Megaventory, if you have a look at the structure of the data, the JSON, it is an array. It's multiple products, and each product has its own details on it. Now, obviously, if we take this source data and try to send it to WooCommerce, it's not gonna work because WooCommerce is expecting only one product. It's just the product with the details, nothing else. So you can only send and create one product at a time in WooCommerce with this endpoint. So what we need to do, we actually need to get the source data from Megaventory and split it into individual pieces, into individual products, these ones here, all 9 of them, and then go through the mapping, map it, and then send the request for the product creation to WooCommerce one by one. So how do we do this? So you could see, if I go to the data layout of the Megaventory here, you can see on each data layout you have this batch splitter here. And batch splitter is exactly what you can use to actually split the array of data as per the Megaventory product stock list in here. So it allows you to split it, process it individually, and send it to the target system individually. So how do we do this? The batch splitter, the important thing to kind of know is that the batch splitter happens before the data layout. So if we go in here, the source data layout, desync initiates call to the source system, and the source system response comes back to desync. The first thing which will run, if it's enabled, is the batch splitter, and it will split it based on the settings, on the configuration, and then it's mapped to the source data layout, which means that if we split this, we will end up with individual pieces of products with only the data underneath this main MV product stock list fields or array. So you'll end up with only these fields underneath, starting with the product ID. And that needs to reflect on our data layout as well. So in this case, I'll enable the batch splitter. It gives you the optional tree key. Now the optional tree key relates to the top level field, which contains the array of these elements. For us, what this means is, if we have a look at the data, this MV product stock list contains the array of 9 products in there. That's what's coming in from Megaventory. So what I need to do, I need to specify that this field, this name, holds the array of products for me, and that's the tricky. So I just put it in. So that's the first step. The second step is, as mentioned previously, because this happens before the data is mapped onto this data layout, we need to get rid of this product stock list field, and what we are left with is just the data underneath the one object in there. So I need to go in and, like, if I hit delete on this field, I get rid of everything on the data layout, because it's an object and all these different fields underneath are basically children of this main object. And you can kind of, if you drag it, you can kind of see what this MV product stock list holds. That's a one piece. So if I go in and delete this, everything's gonna be gone. So we actually need to take these fields and put it one level up, one level on the hierarchy when we're talking about parents and children. So how it's done in desync and in the data layout, you just put it, you drag it, basically you drag it either on top or it's actually, that's the best thing to do. Just drag it over the field on top, and we need to do this for all these fields. So where he, so I'll grab this, need to drag the MV stock on the top. We don't need the response status. I could just leave it in there, but we don't need it at this stage. And we drag, whoops. Is this still holding it? Yeah, it is. So I just need to put it there. Or actually, the easier thing, because we have the data in here, I can just clear this and just take what's underneath the one product. So basically, I would go in and say I just want this first element in the array, and that's gonna basically give me, here we go. So I believe that's it. That's gonna give me basically the structure underneath the product stock list. Let's see if I copied it correctly. Pretty sure I did. Yeah, product ID, MV product, then we should have the stock as we do MV stock and stock physically. Yeah, okay, that's all good. So that's our batch splitter set up. So we save that. Obviously we'll need to do another mapping. We'll go back and just for now I'll actually remove this mapping link connection, and because I've changed the data layout completely, so this will no longer work. But what we'll do, we just create a link between this inventory and product. So this is our product create, and we will define a new mapping for it, and it's gonna be megaventory products to WooCommerce product create. Using a batch splitter, we open up the mapping, and we get all the fields as per the destination data layout, which we've generated from the sample WooCommerce in there. And now we can just go in and map these things. So title, I'm not sure what to map there. It's gonna be the product name, I believe. And we don't have a product name, really. We don't have a product name in Megaventory. What do we put in? Let me have a look at the Megaventory. You can put in the SKU or product description. Yeah, I think the product description is a good fit in here because that's the simple one, and then long description would be normal description. Okay, so we go product description in a title. We have SKU type. So product, if we look at product properties and the type, these are the available types in there, and it defaults to simple. So I can easily just put the default value in without mapping anything. So on the type, we just put the default simple, just key that in. Regular price, we map to our, let's go with the selling price. Description will be the product long description. Short description, I don't think we have short description in here. No, we don't. So we don't even need to map this. If we wanted to put in something, I would probably put in the long description again, but why duplicating it? So we don't have to even send the field to WooCommerce, so I just disable that field. It's not gonna be sent to WooCommerce. Categories. So we have some product category, and we have product category name in here. So we can put it in, see what it does. And images, it's the source and position. So if we look at WooCommerce images, they should be somewhere in here. Images, list of product images, see image properties. So we'll click on the properties. What do we have here? So we have the ID created at updated at source. So that's an image URL. Okay, so we need a full URL where the image is, and position 0 means that the image is featured. Let's have a look at the data which are coming in from Megaventory. We have just one image in here, so we'll hardcode the position, and we can put the image URL straight in. So let's put it in there. Source product image URL, and the position we will hardcode. We'll put in number 1. It is an integer, I believe. It's a number. it is. So it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Because we have just one image, it will, like any update in Megaventure to the image, will always override the WooCommerce image. So there will be only one image on that product every single time, and that's what we want in this case. And that's our mapping done. So I can just save this, and we are ready to test this out. So let's see, run this. And you can see it's running multiple times. And that's caused by the batch splitter. Basically, it takes all the 9 products and it's running them one by one. And you can kind of see when my computer starts to respond. There we go. That it actually ran multiple times. So we should have 9 jobs in total in here at the same time. We can see that one failed, and that's gonna be probably the one which I've created manually previously, because you can't create basically the same product twice. So let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at the log here. What does it say? SKU already exists. So exactly, that was the product which I've created manually. So WooCommerce is rejecting it. But other than that, all the other 8 products in there should be now in WooCommerce. So if we have a look into WooCommerce, that's our pre-existing product. And here we go. There are some DVDs. So we have all these new products just created. And yeah, it's all hunky-dory. So let's have a look what we mapped. Yeah, okay. We did not map the inventory, I believe, but it would be as easy as adding the field onto the data layout and map it in here as per the previous mapping we've done. But yeah, that's pretty much the batch splitter functionality.